What's up, guys? So back with you for Monday, Memorial Day, May 26th. Seems a little bit early for Memorial Day. I don't know. It's just the way that it works out. It's the last Monday of the month or whatever. Happy Memorial Day to everybody. Stop the wars. All right. Bring all the veterans home, man. All right. Let's talk about yesterday. I guess yesterday was a good day on the show, and kind of pisses me off that I'm not actually betting anything right now. As I've pointed out, if you've been watching my show recently, just to conserve money while I'm in kind of a transition period. I'm transitioning, guys. I'm going to become trans. I'm becoming a woman, if you didn't know. Not actually betting, which is kind of frustrating right now when I'm on a heat or I'm on a nice hot streak, because yesterday we went 5-1-1 on the show. The only loser was the Dallas Stars. I mean, I had a real nice read on their previous series. I do not have a good read on this series. I thought the angle with them being used to going up to Canada was a good angle. They got absolutely blown out. I haven't looked at the box score yet. I'm going to have to dive into the box score and see what I think about the next game in that series. But, man, not good. Dallas, just their defense can't hold up right now. It seems like when I looked at that game, it looked like statistically, though, it wasn't that lopsided. So, again, are we going to come back and play Dallas in the next game after another ugly blowout loss? Remains to be seen, but we'll figure that out. And then the Knicks was almost a loss, as they have now, I think, overcome at least three 20-point deficits. How many 20-point deficits? Like, what's the record of 20-point deficits that have been overcome in a playoff, like in a postseason in the NBA? We have like at least four of them, maybe five, all in the Eastern Conference, I think, just in this postseason. I think there's been at least one in the Western Conference too. It's just completely insane. So, I mean, I gave the Knicks out on the show. I'm rooting against the Knicks for my rooting interests, but the Knicks were down 20 points in that game and came back and won the game. So my pick that I gave out on the show, I mean, they were down 0-2. I thought it was the right spot to give out a pick on the Knicks there. And it got there, but again, probably it shouldn't have. I don't know. I mean, that was just one of those where sometimes you get a little bit lucky, man, maybe. And I think it was one of those situations where I wasn't watching the end of it, but it could have been similar to the Celtics situation where you're facing a team that just takes a lot of shots and the shooting just went cold, I think. I don't know. I know the game was a lot lower scoring than the other two games, and for the Knicks to win games in this series, they need the games to be lower scoring pretty much, because if the games are going to be higher scoring, that favors the Pacers quite a bit, because as their name suggests, they like to go really fast. But unlike the Celtics, they don't actually rain a bunch of threes. They actually drive, which the Celtics should be doing. The Pacers are more about, like, push the pace, but we're going to, like, take what we think is the best, like, option on this particular possession, and they will actually drive rather than jack up threes just for the hell of it. So I do still think the Pacers are going to win that series. I don't know what I would want to do with the next game after a collapse like that. Like I said in game two, I didn't really particularly like the Knicks in game two because I thought they might be hung over a little bit off of a collapse like that. We'll see if that happens to the Pacers here. I mean, hopefully for my rooting interest, not. But the Knicks got that win yesterday. And then in baseball yesterday, we did have one win that also was kind of a weird comeback, where the Chicago Cubs, the weakest of my baseball plays, the one that I added on the fly, I think they were losing that game 8-2 into the sixth inning or something. But it was a full game handicap, and part of the handicap was that the Cubs have the way better offense. But did we expect them to unload like 9 runs over the last 3 innings? No, we did not expect that, but that is what happened. And they wound up, I think, flipping an 8-2 deficit into an 11-8 win. I mean, it was a winning pick on the show, so I'll take it, but that was a little bit of a mishandicap. I completely misread the starting pitching matchup in that game, so that set the pick back in that one. That probably should have been a loss, to be honest. So yesterday probably should have been a lot closer to like a 3-3-1 day. But, I mean, I'll take the 5-1-1. We had the easy win of the Detroit Tigers yesterday, run line with Skubal, complete game 2-hitter, and didn't even get to 100 pitches in the game. Just total domination from him. Miami Marlins money line got there as well. That was a win. And then San Diego, Atlanta, a little bit unfortunate on that under. I mean, that was a 1-1 game into the bottom of the 5th inning, and then Atlanta scored twice in the bottom of the 5th. So I think the first 5 innings probably would have been a push as well. I think first 5, probably you would have been looking at an under 4, I would guess. I'm not even sure. And then the full game also wound up pushing. But luckily it didn't go into extra innings because that would have been a death sentence to the under in that one. But it wound up pushing with I believe a 5-3 Padres win. So that was a push. And then WNBA was a winner on the Phoenix Mercury. I think they won by 6, covering the -5. So hopefully people got a good number on that. But man, the WNBA plays, baby. The first time I'm giving out those plays on the show, they're 4-1, I believe, to start the season. Probably should be 5-1. I should have given out the links in their first game, but whatever. Let's talk about today. We got a little bit of a short card today. Memorial Day. It's Monday, so it's a little bit short of a baseball card. I only have baseball plays today, by the way. I'm going to give out 2 baseball plays and leave it at that. NBA, we got Thunder T-Wolves, Game 4. And now the zigzag would tell you that the T-Wolves, after dominating Game 3, which I gave out the T-Wolves on this show, that was an easy winner, nice winner. Team down 0-2 going back home. Really good way to look in the NBA. And really in the NHL as well. So that was a good one. Easy win. T-Wolves just dominated the entire game. But now after you have a completely lopsided result like that, the zigzag would suggest that you probably want to be looking to the Thunder here because they're going to be the team that has all the adjustments to make. They're going to be the team in the angry mood. However, the money is actually all coming in on the T-Wolves in this game. Thunder down from 4-3, 54% of tickets and 76% of the cash on the T-Wolves. So I'm a little bit hesitant to actually do it, man. I was thinking this is probably going to be a play on the Thunder. I would still lean that way because I think the zigzag is pretty strong, but the T-Wolves, they're better than they've looked so far in the series, at least better than they looked in the first 2 games in the series, although they're not as good as they looked in Game 3. But the T-Wolves can definitely compete here, and I'm not writing them off in this series yet. But for them to stay in the series, they got to win this game, this home game. And they are getting an underdog price here. So I do think the line value is probably not really there for the Thunder. As I mentioned this in game 3, I was like, this line seems like it's not low enough, like not towards the T-Wolves enough. Like I thought it really should be maybe closer to like a 2 or maybe even a 1 because the Thunder were like 7.5 at home. So this line does seem high, although of course now it's accounting for the zigzag coming into play here, and the Thunder should play better in this game and should crack down on defense a little bit more, but I don't see the line value there. It looks like the money's coming in against it, so I do have some hesitations on that one, and I kind of liked the T-Wolves to be really competitive in the series coming into the series, so I'm going to not recommend a play on this game. The money is also coming in on the under for what it's worth, 75% of tickets on the over, but 69% of the cash on the under, even though the total did move up from 216.5 to 218. Under would suggest that the Thunder would probably be the correct side, though, because I think the Thunder and the under, I think, are actually correlated. Thunder under, because the Thunder, I mean, both of these teams do play defense. I know the Thunder do actually kind of like to play fast in general, but I think the under actually is correlated to the Thunder in this game because I think if it's going to go under, it means the Thunder are going to like really improve on defense from what they did in the last game, which was, I believe, a pretty high-scoring game. But I don't love unders in these like second games in like a particular stadium because I think the offense tends to actually do a little bit better because like they're used to the sight lines again. It matters more in like college basketball and like weird arenas and stuff, but still, and then the defenses are going to be a little bit more tired too, having to play a second game in 3 days. So I'm just going to stay away from it. Scott, what's up, man? What race? What are we talking about? I'm a racist, so I don't know, man. I don't know what race you're talking about, but I prefer certain races over others, like the Indy 500. Was it the Indy 500? It was, right? That was yesterday. I don't pay any attention, but the Indy 500 might have been yesterday. Andrew, what's up, man? Defending me? Oh, well, thank you, sir. Your brother and your friend need to get with the program, man. The Coca-Cola 600. All right. At the end of that one, do they dump Coke on themselves instead of milk? I don't know. NASCAR. By the way, Fox is getting really, they're getting shameless with their Indy 500 advertising because I don't know if you saw, there was a Red Sox game on Fox. I think it was, when was it? Saturday. I don't know when the Indy 500 even is, by the way, but it is in May, I thought, at some point. But some Jaron Duran hit a home run, and some guy in the stadium that, for some reason, the cameras are like, let's focus on him before he even does anything. Oh, that totally makes sense. And then he dumps milk all over himself. It's like, what? Like, what's happening here? I think it was just a shameless Indy 500 promotion, man. I think it was staged. NHL, we got Florida up 3-0 in the series against Carolina. The money is all coming in on Florida to just end the series here. Up from -165 to -180. 81% of tickets, 96% of the cash coming in on Florida. Now, as far as the finals are concerned, I'm not sure that it really benefits Florida to end this series tonight because they're going to have to wait around. And the team that wins the Western Conference is probably going to have momentum coming into the finals, whereas Florida might have their momentum stalled out a little bit if they win tonight. But the numbers, the money, the market read seems to suggest that Florida is likely to put the series away tonight. The line is too high, though, in my opinion. So I don't think there's really any value playing Florida here, but I don't really want Carolina at this point because you really have to figure out, is Carolina going to show up like in a literal elimination game? Are they going to have one like last gasp and play a really good game? And is there going to be value on them as an underdog there? Or are they just going to roll over and die, basically? Which I kind of think the former might be more likely. Like, I mean, teams don't want to lose, man. So I think you're playing for pride and whatever. And in hockey, at least, being down 3-0, even though it's almost a death sentence, teams have overcome a 3-0 deficit, I think, 3 times in the NHL. So that's better than the 0 times that it's happened in the NBA or the 1 time that it happened in Major League Baseball. So, yeah, I'm not going to do anything with that game, obviously, but just pointed it out. That's a game that's pretty difficult to handicap. There's no WNBA, so let's go to Major League Baseball, where first game up at 1:10 p.m. We got afternoon baseball, Memorial Day. We got San Francisco Giants and Detroit Tigers, man. Looks like a nice matchup between two teams that have been hot to start the season. But we get a starting pitching matchup of Hayden Birdsong against Keter Montero. Oh, man. We get these two teams that are probably overperforming a little bit, but have been some of the better teams in baseball. And then we get this pitching matchup. I'm sorry. I mean, no shade really to these guys. Well, some shade, I guess. But, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know if we really want to see this matchup. Birdsong, I mean, he's a young guy. He came up, I think, last year. He was in the starting rotation for a bit. Maybe he's starting to find his bearings a little bit. He did just go 5 innings of shutout ball against, or not shutout ball. He allowed 1 unearned run against Kansas City and struck out 4, which is a pretty good performance. He was coming out of the bullpen, I think, a lot of this season. I think he was making some opener starts for the Giants, and then he finally they let him go a little bit further. So it seems like they're actually trying to turn him into a starter again. So we'll see how that goes. I mean, overall, his numbers are kind of mediocre. I mean, a 1.91 ERA looks good, but remember, these are mostly in short appearances, and a 1.24 whip isn't terrific, really. I mean, his numbers are okay. His strikeout rate is more than 1 per inning, so that's not really that bad. Just a few too many walks, I would say. So we'll see what he winds up being able to do here in a tough assignment at Detroit, where Detroit plays pretty well at home, and he has not historically done well in a small sample size of 11 at-bats. Detroit is 5 for 11 off him with 2 home runs from Dingler and Vierling. Dingler hits the dingers, man. They both have home runs off him, and a 455 average for Detroit against him with a 1,636 OPS. It is a small sample size, but he is not quieted Detroit's bats, let's say. And Keter Montero on the other side, I think, is probably the worst of the two pitchers. I mean, his numbers this year, not good. 5.28 ERA, 1.57 whip. He hasn't made that many appearances. I think he's made a couple of starts. He was a follower in one of the starts, which means that he was slated as a starter, and actually somebody else opened, and then he came in after that, which I think was his most recent appearance. But he still basically got a starter's workload there. And now he's slated to start this game. Keep an eye on it, because it is possible that one or both of these guys actually doesn't start the game and winds up being a follower. I don't know what I want to do with this game, man. Montero, I mean, his numbers this year, they're just not very good. 21 to 13 strikeout walk ratio, more than 1 hit per inning. He's just putting way too many men on base. Against the Giants, his numbers aren't terrific either, really, in 14 at-bats, 286 average, 732 OPS, so probably would be leaning a little bit to an over, but we do know that Detroit, their entire bullpen is saved right now because yesterday, Tarek Skubal pitched the entire game yesterday, so that saved their entire bullpen. San Francisco is coming in from, where were they at? They're in Washington, and they're coming in. I didn't even look to see what what did their bullpen do yesterday. They used a few of their better relievers, actually, to hold off Washington and save the game. So Detroit has a little bit of a better bullpen rest situation, but San Francisco actually has a really good bullpen, like debatably the best in baseball. So if you want to go over in this game, I think a first 5-inning over makes more sense to just fade the starting pitchers here. But I'm not going to have anything to do with this game. The market read also kind of looks like it's indicating on Detroit on the side, up from -107 to -108, 60% of tickets, 55% of the cash on the Giants, as it looks like the public is slightly on the Giants right now. They're kind of off the Detroit Tigers train because the Tigers lost 3 of their last 4 games to Cleveland. And then they won, of course, with their ace on the mound yesterday. But Detroit's still pretty difficult to beat at home, man. But we'll see, because Detroit has beaten a lot of bad teams so far this year. So we'll see what winds up happening in that game. My Boston Red Sox get to leave home, which I think is a positive situation. Whenever you play badly at home, I mean, splitting a series with the atrocious Baltimore Orioles, losing 5-1 with Dean Creamer on the mound yesterday for the Orioles, that's not good. That's embarrassing. It'll probably help the Red Sox to just forget about that, go on the road. I think it's a good spot for the Red Sox. And they got Garrett Crochet on the mound. He is their ace. 1.98 ERA, 1.07 whip. I mean, he's going to be in the Cy Young running if he keeps this up. Really good numbers, really high strikeout rate. But his numbers specifically against Milwaukee are actually not very good. In 26 at-bats, 308 average allowed, and 703 OPS. I mean, not terrible. It is a small sample size. So do I think Garrett Crochet is going to come into this game and get totally lit up? No, I don't really think so. But there is some hesitation there, even though it's a positive spot for the Red Sox because his matchup numbers aren't that good. And Chad Patrick from Milwaukee has actually been pitching pretty well this year for them. I think this might be his rookie season. Yeah, it is. 3.23 ERA, 1.26 whip. He's pitching pretty well. He hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any appearance, which is good. 45-16 strikeout walk ratio, pretty respectable, I would say. Fewer than 1 hit per inning. I mean, his numbers are definitely respectable, even though that whip is a little bit too high. He's been a pretty good young pitcher here, man, and the Red Sox have never seen him before, so I think he has a little bit of an edge with the starting pitching matchup there, so I don't love the Red Sox here. 76% of tickets and only 69% of the cash, so the Red Sox are actually pretty public here. I think probably because Garrett Crochet is on the mound. So I think the price is just way too high on the Red Sox, up from -150 to -151. I don't love that. I would lean to a first 5-inning under here, but I hesitate with that too, just because Crochet historically isn't really good against the Brewers. First 5-inning under, I think, does make sense, though, because Milwaukee's bullpen hasn't been good. Red Sox bullpen, kind of an issue as well, to be honest. We have 57% of tickets on the over, but 86% of the cash on the under. I do think the starting pitching matchup is pretty under-conducive, though, for all the reasons that I just said, including that when a pitcher like Patrick hasn't been seen before by the opposing hitters, they tend to be at a little bit of an advantage for that reason. So that's a stay away from me, though. Colorado coming into Chicago here. Colorado coming in from home after losing to the Yankees and playing them close yesterday, a 1-run game. Chicago, the Cubs, returning home from a road trip. And I always say when a team's returning home from a road trip, it can be a little bit of a distraction spot because these guys have to get back to family life. And you could definitely be a little bit distracted when your opponent is the Colorado Rockies. You just came off a divisional series where you just made a huge comeback and beat the Reds. Are you really going to pay attention to the Colorado Rockies here? Probably not, but the Colorado Rockies are so bad and even worse on the road that do you want to have any money on those guys? I don't think so. Cubs are very public, though. 87% of tickets and cash right now, sitting somewhere in the -300 range, a little bit above -300. I mean, you can't lay a money line price like that, obviously. I wouldn't want anything to do with the Cubs at all in a return home spot, so it's a stay away from me as well. Palmquist is pitching for Colorado. He's made 2 starts in his very young career so far, and neither were good. Didn't make 5 innings either time. He's allowed more runs than innings pitched. Very bad so far. 5 walks to 2 strikeouts as well. Just awful stats overall, putting 2.5 men on base per inning and an 11.88 ERA. Obviously, that's not going to cut it. Now he's facing one of the elite offenses in baseball. Yeah, I mean, no thanks. And then Jameson Taillon is pitching for the Cubs, having a pretty decent season, 4.13 ERA, 1.09 whip. Mostly kind of continuing the same this month, although in his last start he had 3 walks and only 2 strikeouts, which is a little bit of a concern, but not really anything where I would really like raise an alarm or anything like that. Against the Colorado Rockies, he's been good in 43 at-bats, 209 average, 563 OPS. So yeah, I would say the Cubs definitely do have a starting pitching advantage in this game. I highly doubt that it's enough to justify a ridiculous money line like this or any price, like laying a multiple run line with a home team like Chicago here. In a bad spot, there's no way you want to do that. But there's no way that I think you can put any money on Colorado either. So that's a stay away. Next up is actually a play I'm going to recommend. I'm going to recommend a play on the St. Louis Cardinals. Minus 115 or whatever the best price you can get is out there on the Cardinals in one of our many interleague games today. The money looks like it's coming in on the Cardinals, and I think it's for good reason. They're up for minus 115 and minus 110 here. 81% of the tickets, 88% of the cash. I mean, of course, if you're fading the Orioles, you're probably going to be joining the public in fading them, and the public is never going to play the Orioles. But I like how this sets up. I think it's a good situation where you have the Cardinals leaving home with momentum. And yes, I know they're coming off a sweep, and now they're playing a bad team. So it is possible it's a little bit of a letdown for the Cardinals. But when you leave home and you start a road trip, you're usually focused for that first game to start the road trip. It does tend to be more often than not a focus spot. Maybe they won't take that sweep for granted because they won every single game by 1 run. It gives me a little bit of hesitation, but everything else about this I like St. Louis, so I am going to do it. Where Baltimore, they're returning home from a road trip. It wasn't a long road trip, but they did go to Milwaukee, and then they had all these weird rain postponements in this series against the Red Sox. Wound up winning the last 2 games against the Red Sox. They played 3 games in the last 2 days now. So that's another kind of concern that they played extra games. So that means Baltimore's the less rested team right now because they played 3 games in the last 2 days, whereas St. Louis has only played 2 games in the last 2 days. So that means that Baltimore's bullpen is probably a little bit more taxed. They're returning home from a road trip, which again is a distraction spot typically because these guys have family life to get back to. And talk about letdown spots. They could be in a letdown spot because they're far and away the worst team in their division in the AL East, and they just beat one of the teams that's usually one of the best teams in the AL East, the Red Sox. They just beat them in a series, or split a series with them, I should say. Just beat them 2 games in a row. So I think they could be in a little bit of a letdown coming off of that. And now because of their bullpen scenario, they have Charlie Morton on the mound today. He's coming back out of the bullpen to make a start. I think because they had to play 3 games in the last 2 days. I think they're like, oh crap, we need a starter. And now it's Charlie Morton again. I don't think this is going to go well for them. He's 0-7 this season with a 7.68 ERA, 1.76 whip. I don't think the Orioles won any of his starts. In fact, they have not won any game that he has appeared in this entire season. Look at this. You have to be kidding me, right? That is the case. Even his relief appearances, they haven't won. He's made 6 starts, 12 appearances, and the Orioles are 0-12 in those games that he's appeared in. Unbelievable. I don't think I've seen anything like that. He's like the reverse Robbie Ray, basically. I know this month, actually, he hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in any outing, but he's been making short stints coming out of the bullpen, a 4.4 ERA. I mean, it's an improvement over what he was doing prior to that, but it's not good. And he's still allowed 3 home runs this month as well, so I don't know. I'm not going to say Morton is like back all of a sudden, and he's making a start here. We don't even know how deep he's going to go into this game. They might just let him go a few innings, try to get them through a little bit, and then take them out. So I don't think it's a really good situation. And up against St. Louis, His numbers are actually okay, but I still don't trust him, man. In 69 at bats, he had 246 average allowed, 611 OPS. But remember, a lot of this goes back to when Morton was still a serviceable pitcher, and I'm not sure that he still is. I think we kind of have to take what he's done this year and kind of weigh that a little bit more heavily than like historical stats at this point, because I think he's just maybe kind of falling off a cliff a little bit. So we'll see, but I don't like that at all. And then Eric Fetty is pitching for St. Louis. I don't think he's fallen off a cliff yet, as he's in his early 30s. He's putting up respectable numbers, 3.77 ERA, 1.27 whip. Hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any of his starts this month, which is decent. He's faced some difficult opponents, though, man. Going up to his last start in April, he's faced Milwaukee, the Mets, Philadelphia, Detroit. I mean, he's faced some pretty difficult teams. He had a complete game shutout against Washington, who suck. But I think Fetty, he's pitching well, and he actually he made 63 pitches in his last outing. He was actually efficient, and he went 5 innings in that game against Detroit, but he gave up 4 earned runs because he gave up 2 home runs in that game against Detroit. But he was really efficient with his pitches, and I think the fact that he only threw 63 pitches and he's pitching again on schedule here, I think that's going to help him because it means he's not overworked right now. I think he's going to want to bounce back a little bit. And his numbers against the Orioles are actually basically elite. The Orioles historically are 1 for 25 off him lifetime with a single, with 2 walks, 5 strikeouts, an 0.40 average, 151 OPS. So I know it's a pretty small sample size, but Fetty, he's not the greatest pitcher. I do like to fade him in a lot of scenarios, but he has completely shut down Baltimore. So I think you get a situational edge with St. Louis starting a road trip versus Baltimore returning home from a road trip. The letdown spot is kind of, I think, negated by both teams kind of being in one. And I think you get the better starting pitcher with the better matchup numbers here with Eric Fetty. So I think St. Louis is the right side there. We're going to fade Charlie Morton here, man. And it's almost a situation where Charlie Morton is almost a favorite. I mean, I don't think he ever should be at this point. The Orioles with Morton on the mound. I mean, like I said, the Orioles are 0-12 in games that he's pitched in. So take from all of that what you will. Next up is my only other play I'm going to recommend today, and that is a total. And it's an under. Finally, I'm giving you guys I gave you guys an under yesterday, and it pushed. But hopefully this is a winner this time. Under either 7 or 7.5 here. I saw 7.5 at -118, I think at FanDuel or something a little while ago. So find the best number that you can. If you want to go under 7 and get a little bit of a better price, you can do that too. But if it hits 7, it'll push, obviously. So I kind of prefer paying a little bit extra up to maybe about -120 to get the hook instead, because 7 is a key number in baseball. It's what you need to break the 3-3 tie. As I always say, this looks like it's going to be a good pitching matchup here. And we got 2 offenses that have struggled throughout the season, especially Texas's offense. So Toronto's offense has started clicking a little bit, but they're facing an elite pitcher here. So I think that the offense there's a good chance that they're both going to be kind of shut down in this game a little bit. Texas is also returning home from a road trip, but they went to New York. They finally won a game. They almost lost every game on the road trip, and they almost got swept by the White Sox, and they finally won a game. So, yeah, that is okay momentum-wise for Texas. But they're returning home from a road trip, man. On these return home spots, the distraction usually comes into play, and it does affect the hitting typically. So I do like to look to not only fade teams returning home from road trips, but I tend to play unders in those games more often than not as well. So that's where I'm looking here. I think Texas's offense might factor into this distraction angle a little bit, where these guys do have to return home. They might be a little bit pissed and might have a little bit of momentum because they almost lost every game to the White Sox and finally beat them. But still, return home spot, I think it is going to be kind of a distraction spot. Toronto is they're not starting a road trip, excuse me. They're mid-road trip. They should be a little bit angry and refocused after they lost to Tampa Bay 13-0 yesterday and got swept by Tampa. So my first instinct was I actually was kind of looking towards the Toronto side here. Which might still be a lean because Toronto, coming off getting embarrassed like that against a Texas team returning home from a road trip, looks like you might want to look towards Toronto here. But then I saw the starting pitching. I'm like, do I really want to fade Jacob deGrom? I don't think I do, even though the money is actually coming in on Toronto as well, which I'll talk about in a minute. So I do still agree with the Toronto side, but I prefer the under here. So Toronto, I mean, they got completely shut down in that last series, so their offense isn't really in good form right now, scoring 2 runs in the last 3 games. After having a nice offensive output against San Diego, they did not do well against Tampa Bay, and they're facing a really, really good pitcher here, man, and Jacob deGrom. So I think both starting pitchers actually have an edge here. Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays. I mean, he has ups and downs, obviously. His 4.03 ERA isn't terrific, but a .98 whip kind of tells you that his ERA should actually be a little bit better. He's given up several home runs. I mean, I don't know like where these runs are coming from. I mean, some of it might be getting a little bit unlucky. He had 1 bad start this month against Tampa and then bounced back nicely with a 7-inning shutout with 9 strikeouts, 3 hits allowed, and didn't even throw 100 pitches against San Diego. So I think he's still in good form. I mean, this month he has a 27-1 strikeout walk ratio, which is totally insane and a big improvement over his April performance as well. So I think he's definitely in good form right now. He's feeling it. And against the Texas Rangers, who have not been hitting well this year, Gausman has really good numbers in 103 at-bats. So we got a big sample size here. 34-6 strikeout walk ratio. He's actually K'd Marcus Semien 10 times. He's held him to a 184 average and 618 OPS. Gausman does have good numbers against Texas in a large sample size. And then, of course, Jacob deGrom on the other side. Like I said, he's basically picked up right where he left off, man. He's still an elite pitcher. 2.33 ERA, .93 whip. He's got a 62-12 strikeout walk ratio this year, 29-5 this month. Going 7 and 8 innings in his last 2 starts, 1 against the Yankees. Even though his team lost the game, he gave them 7 innings with 9 strikeouts, 1 walk, and only allowed 2 earned runs in the Bronx. So he is definitely in good form as well. He's pitching really well. And against Toronto's bats, he also has really good numbers, although it's a small sample size of 11 at-bats. They're 1 for 11 with Vlad Guerrero with the only hit off of him, an RBI single. 9-1 strikeout walk ratio. So in 11 at-bats that Toronto has had against him, 9 of them have resulted in strikeouts, which is insane. Obviously, that percentage is not going to continue, but still, deGrom has done really well in a small sample size against them. An 0.91 average and 258 OPS. So we have 2 starting pitchers with really good matchup numbers here. Under is the play there. The total has dropped a little bit from 7.5 to 7, basically. I think you can find numbers in that range all over still out there. Got 52% of tickets on the over, but 57% of the cash on the under. And the money looks like it is strongly coming in on Toronto as well. Texas down from -150 to -133. 83% of tickets and only 63% of the cash. So a very public Texas team sees the line moving totally against them. So I think the money is coming in on both the under and the Blue Jays. I like both of those as well. I agree with them both. But if we think this is going to be a lower scoring game, then I think it makes sense to the under makes more sense than playing the side. Even though you're getting Toronto as an underdog, if you think that they're going to be in the game and it's going to be a close, low scoring game, the underdog does make sense for that reason as well. We do have to worry about the bullpen slightly. Toronto's bullpen isn't that great, but they didn't get really overworked yesterday. It was a blowout loss, so they didn't really have to use any of their better arms yesterday, so that's fine. And Texas, I don't think really had to use many of their best arms either yesterday. So I think the bullpens are in okay shape. But Texas's bullpen has actually been fairly good this year, so I think it's okay to go full game on that. And if you go under in the first 5 innings, it's a little bit of a more ridiculous price. I think you're probably going under about 3 or 3.5 there, so it's a little bit crazier to do so. Now the Mets, I kind of wanted to fade them because they played the Sunday night game. That was a big series, big game, Mets-Dodgers. Mets have played back-to-back Sunday night games, and we know the last time they did that, they didn't play well in the next game. They lost to the Red Sox, and I gave that out as a play on this show. But I don't think we can really fade the Mets here, man. Is there a massive favorite against the Chicago White Sox, who just lost a win streak there, lost a close game to the Texas Rangers? So even though the Mets are in a really bad spot, letdown spot, with a short turnaround time, they're not traveling, at least. They're staying at home. They did play last night, though, so short turnaround time. Got a big win over the Dodgers. But if you want the White Sox here, you're going to have to deal with Adrian Hauser. Is that really what we want to do here? I know he has a 0 ERA so far and a .83 whip, but it was only one appearance. And yes, it was a 6-inning shutout against Seattle, which is pretty impressive, but he had 3 walks and 2 strikeouts there. So it wasn't exactly like he was totally commanding his pitches. And over his career, he has a 1.37 whip, which is definitely too high. I never really had like great strikeout walk ratio numbers at all. So I don't think we trust Hauser. I mean, he's kind of been a guy that's just an arm that's kind of been serviceable, basically. Up against the Mets lifetime, in 59 at-bats, he's done okay against them, a 254 average, 685 OPS. So Hauser actually has done okay against them in the past. And then the Mets have Clay Holmes pitching, and he's doing surprisingly well, as I keep pointing out. 3.13 ERA, 1.24 whip is still a bit high. And even this month, he has 3 walks. In 2 of his last 3 starts, he walked 3 guys in tough draws against the Cubs and the Red Sox, but still not great to see him lack in control like that. A 17-7 strikeout walk ratio this month, so he does have issues with walks. And up against the White Sox, though, I assume he has good numbers. Yeah, and 17 at-bats, 7-4 strikeout walk ratio is not great, but 176 average, 510 OPS, so I don't really want to fade Holmes and try to deal with this White Sox offense. It's probably not going to score a whole lot here. Mets, of course, are very public, but I don't think you can really do a whole lot with this game, to be honest. Mets, big favorite in a bad spot, which is kind of what I said about the Cubs as well. So both games involving Chicago teams as well, so we'll stay away. Cincinnati and Kansas City, this one is a little bit tough for me because Kansas City's in a bad spot because they're returning home. As I will say again, it's a distracted spot. Usually guys have to get back to family life when they return home after a road trip. Kansas City was out on the Pacific Coast, and they played pretty well against the Giants, and then they came back, played in Minnesota, big divisional series, and now they're coming back home and playing an interleague game. So I think it's kind of a bad spot for Kansas City here, but I don't love the spot the Reds are in either because they just blew a game against their division rival, Chicago Cubs. That was a big series for the Reds, and the Reds had the Cubs on the ropes yesterday, as I pointed out, and they completely imploded late. So I don't think either team is in a particularly good spot here. It's Nick Martinez against Michael Lorenzen here, and I actually think the pitching matchup actually favors Lorenzen. Even though Martinez is pitching well this season, 3.43 ERA, 1.14 whip. Not a whole lot you can really argue about his numbers, though his strikeout rate isn't that high, but he's not walking a lot of guys, not putting a lot of guys on base. 17-2 strikeout walk ratio this month is still good, even though not a lot of strikeouts, but really low walk number. 1.8 ERA this month. Pretty good, but he's faced weak offenses for the most part. Washington, Houston was the best offense, and they hit him around a little bit. White Sox and Pittsburgh. I mean, those are some pretty weak offenses for the most part. And against, who do we have here? I forget who I'm even talking about. The Kansas City Royals. Martinez actually doesn't have great numbers against them in 42 at-bats. 286 average, 723 OPS. So the Royals have been able to hit Martinez a little bit. And for the Royals, we got Michael Lorenzen pitching. He's been okay this year, 3.77 ERA, 1.27 whip is a little bit high. This month, 22-3 strikeout walk ratio kind of tells you that his command has been pretty good. Although his last outing, he threw too many pitches and didn't even go 5 innings and kind of struggled. But it was on the road against a pretty good Giants team. So take from that what you will, I guess. As far as the runs that he's allowed are concerned, yeah, he's struggled a little bit. And he hasn't made 5 innings in 2 of his last 4 starts as well, so that's a little bit concerning. Against the Reds, though, the Reds don't really have that great of an offense, and Lorenzen has really good numbers against him in 32 at-bats. They're only 3 for 32 off him, an 0.94 average and 246 OPS. So Lorenzen, I think, actually has the upper hand here with the matchup numbers. I think it's kind of a bad spot for Kansas City, but it's kind of a bad spot for both teams here. And then if you look at the splits, actually, Nick Martinez is actually significantly worse on the road this year. The 2.73 ERA at home somehow in Great American Ballpark, which is usually a ballpark that is not very pitcher-friendly. And on the road, he has a 4.18 ERA, so he has actually been worse on the road. And Lorenzen has actually been way better at home, and that's where he is here. .95 ERA at home this year, the 188 opponent batting average. I know it's a bit of a small sample size, but 5.17 ERA on the road, 284 opponent batting average. So Lorenzen has been way better at home. So the splits seem to indicate on Kansas City as well. So the pitching matchup, I think, favors Kansas City fairly significantly, but we do see money actually coming in against them. 61% of tickets, only 53% of the cash on Kansas City. Line has dropped from -120 to -117, so the market read is all over Cincinnati. But I'm not really sure that I agree with that, even though I know Kansas City is returning home from a road trip, so I don't quite want to do that. But the pitching matchup has enough factors involved that I think I would actually probably slightly lean to Kansas City anyway, but I'm not going to do anything with that game. Dodgers and Cleveland, of course, the Dodgers were the other team that played last night, and they're traveling from New York to Cleveland, so it's not a great spot for the Dodgers. Quick turnaround time coming off that night game and traveling from New York to Cleveland. But they do have their ace on the mound, Yamamoto, so I don't really know that I want to fade the Dodgers. If they had another pitcher on the mound, yeah, I'd probably be looking to fade the Dodgers here, but I don't think I can fade Yamamoto. 1.86 ERA, .91 whip. I mean, you're taking your life in your hands if you want to fade this guy. I mean, he's been one of the better pitchers in baseball, obviously. Still pitching well this month, 25-7 strikeout walk ratio. I mean, the walk number got a little bit elevated this month, but it's still pretty good. And against, who are we up against here? I already forget. What do we have? We have Dodgers-Cleveland here. Against Cleveland, what do we got? Actually, Cleveland, only Nolan Jones has ever seen him before. And he's actually 2 for 4 off Yamamoto with 2 RBIs. So the matchup numbers aren't great for Yamamoto, but I wouldn't put that much stock into the fact that Jones is 2 for 4 off him lifetime, because the rest of Cleveland's hitters have never even seen Yamamoto before, and he's a really good pitcher. So I think Yamamoto does have the upper hand there, and he's a better pitcher than Gavin Williams, which is who Cleveland has on the mound. 3.94 ERA looks pretty good, but 1.52 whip is anything but good. I mean, he's putting way too many men on base, including this month. Strikeout rate is really high, 29 in 20 innings. That's pretty good, but 12 walks, way too many walks. So I don't know if we could trust Gavin Williams, because his wildness is just too great. I mean, he just walks too many guys, and the Dodgers, small 13 at-bat sample size, but they have kind of wrecked him. 538 opponent batting average and 1,416 OPS, 4 walks to 1 strikeout. So again, the walks have hurt Williams against the Dodgers. I know it's a small sample size, but man, I would be worried about that. I mean, yeah, I don't know what I would want to do with that game. I mean, the Dodgers, we've seen a lot of line movement against the Dodgers here. They have 85% of tickets. Of course, the Dodgers are going to be very public. Only 73% of the cash, and the line is plummeted from -175 to -148. So the money is crashing on the Dodgers, and it is coming in on the Cleveland side, I think, because it is a bad spot for the Dodgers, as I just pointed out. Short turnaround time, but Cleveland is returning home from a road trip, a 3-series road trip, even though they stayed in the area. I mean, they only went to Cincinnati, Minnesota, Detroit, so they did not go very far, but they've still been away from home for a while. So I don't love Cleveland in the spot either, and I don't love fading Yamamoto. So it's going to be a stay away, unfortunately, because I saw last night, oh, sweet, Dodgers are playing the Mets. Let's fade those guys coming into Monday, but I don't think we could do it. So I'm going to stay away. Tampa Bay staying at home after probably feeling pretty high on themselves. They won 5 games in a row now, and they just smashed Toronto, completing a sweep of Toronto, where now they've leapfrogged not only Toronto but Boston in the standings to get into second place in the AL East, which is ridiculous. As the AL East is really just the Yankees and then everybody else who's not very good, unfortunately, because my Boston Red Sox have sucked. But Tampa Bay, I mean, they could be in line for a little bit of a letdown here, man, off a nice divisional sweep and winning 13-0 yesterday. They might be feeling a little bit cocky coming into this game, a little bit plump and gay, as I haven't said on the show for a while. Minnesota coming in, starting a road trip after losing yesterday to Kansas City. I think it's a good spot for Minnesota. Again, starting a road trip tends to be a positive spot. You tend to be a little bit focused when you start the road trip. Chris Paddock is pitching for Minnesota. I know he's a guy that hasn't really been great in his career, but his numbers are actually okay this year at this point. 3.98 ERA, 1.23 whip. after an atrocious start on the first start of the season against the White Sox, allowing 9 runs. He hasn't allowed more than 300 runs in any appearance since then. So he's been consistent. He's been okay. He hasn't blown everybody away. That's not what he does. He doesn't come in and strike guys out, but he has limited the opposing offenses pretty much throughout the entire season. So he's been pretty serviceable, and he's facing a not very great offense here against Tampa Bay, and they've actually never seen him before. So I think Chris Paddock does actually have a little bit of an upper hand in this matchup here. When you have a young pitcher like this who hasn't been seen before by an opposing offense, it tends to be an advantage for them. Zach Littell is pitching for Tampa Bay. He's been pretty decent this year as well. 4.25 ERA, but 1.15 whip. His whip is good. He has a 16-2 strikeout walk ratio this month, which is pretty good. Not a high strikeout rate, but he's not walking a lot of guys, but he's allowing way too many home runs. He's allowed 6 home runs this month, so that's really kind of the problem. The long ball, he's allowed 14 this year, so really, that's really why his ERA is so high, is the amount of home runs he's allowed is ridiculous. Doesn't really have crazy splits. I'm kind of looking at this on the fly, thinking, do I want him actually come in and play Minnesota here? I'm thinking. Littell, his numbers are a little bit worse at home. 4.33 ERA at home, 4.18 on the road. And of course, home this year is this Steinbrenner Stadium, which can be a little bit more home run conducive. Against Minnesota, they've definitely seen him before. 43 at bats. His numbers aren't that great. He's allowed 4 home runs to them to 4 different batters. 5 walks to 9 strikeouts, not a good ratio there. 279 average and 959 OPS. So Minnesota has actually hit Littell pretty well here. I'm thinking about it, man. Do I want to actually add this one? Another on-the-fly play from me. The money looks like it's coming in on Minnesota. 62% of tickets, 80% of the cash. They're an underdog. Line moving down on Tampa, down from -120 to -116. We know Minnesota had that nice run recently where they won a lot of games, although granted, half of those games were wins over the Orioles, and we know the Orioles suck, but let me look. I might add another play on the fly for 3 days in a row, man, even though I've only gone 1-1 in those plays, and I probably should have lost the one yesterday, but you know that when I do this, it usually does mean it's the weakest of the plays that I have here. Minnesota, we can get them at +106, get them as an underdog price. I think both teams, similar kind of bullpen usage. Both bullpens are actually pretty decent anyway. Yeah, let's do it. Full game. Minnesota +106, baby, on the fly. Let's do it. The Minnesota Twins. We like twins, man. Hot chick twins and twins if we're referring to titties. So there we go. We'll jump on the Twins there. Sounds like fun. Pittsburgh is at Arizona here. Arizona, obviously, they're the way better team, but they're returning home from a road trip that took them to LA and then to St. Louis. So again, even though it wasn't a good road trip, so the public thought is going to be, oh, well, they just had a bad road trip returning home. They should bounce back, right? Especially because they lost basically all their losses. 4 out of the 5 losses on the road trip were by 1 run, and the other was by 2 runs. So every game was close. So yeah, I agree. The Diamondbacks aren't as bad as they looked during that recent stretch. They're not that bad. But the return home from a road trip spot is always a distracted spot, so it doesn't really work that way. Well, not always, but it tends to be a distracted spot. So it doesn't really work that way that, oh, this team is going to bounce back as soon as they come back home. It doesn't really work that way. Although Pittsburgh does suck, but Pittsburgh is coming off of a loss and starting a road trip, so it is a positive spot for Pittsburgh. I tend to look towards teams that are starting a road trip up against teams that are returning home from road trips. That tends to be the way to go. Andrew Heaney is on the mound for Pittsburgh. He is the better of the 2 pitchers here. 2.91 ERA, 1.13 whip. So I think the Pirates do have the better of the pitching matchup here, but there are some reasons to be hesitant about Heaney here, as this month he has more walks than strikeouts. 11 strikeouts, 12 walks. That's not good. So there are some reasons to kind of dial it back a little bit on Heaney here. And up against Arizona, who is a good hitting team, his numbers are kind of mediocre at best. 63 at bats, 15-10 strikeout walk ratio. So again, Heaney has struggled with his control against the D-backs. 254 average allowed isn't bad, but an 801 OPS is a little bit high. So I don't love Heaney in the spot, to be honest. And Ryan Nelson is pitching for Arizona. I mean, he's a guy that I like to fade a lot, but somehow his whip this year is actually pretty good, 1.15. Not a great 4.6 ERA. I still don't think he's a good pitcher. I mean, the first time he went 5 innings was his last outing, and it was a 5-inning, 1-run performance against the Dodgers on the road. So, tough assignment. I'll give him credit for doing that. And he was actually efficient with his pitches as well. But I don't know that we could trust Ryan Nelson, man. I mean, he's still on Arizona. He was on Arizona last year, and his numbers weren't great. 4.24 ERA, 1.25 whip. I mean, I think that's about probably what you should expect out of him. He's a mediocre pitcher, I think, at best, really. Up against Pittsburgh, though, Pittsburgh's offense does suck. And in 21 at-bats, he's held them to a 143 average and 503 OPS. So with the starting pitching matchup here, I actually think Ryan Nelson might be the better of might have the better matchup of the two, just because the offense he's facing is so much weaker, which of course is why Arizona is the favorite here. But it is a situational negative spot for Arizona and positive spot for Pittsburgh. So do with all that information what you will. I'm not going to do anything with it. San Diego is also returning home from a road trip, and they went to the East. They went to Toronto and Atlanta, so they're flying cross-country with no time off, so it's a bad spot for San Diego. Meanwhile, Miami is already on the Pacific Coast. They just played in Anaheim, so they don't have to travel far at all. They're going down from Anaheim to San Diego, and they're already adjusted to the Pacific time zone, so Miami definitely has a situational edge there. I tend to look for situations like that where the road team actually has a little bit of an edge there because they're already out in their opponent's area there, and their opponents have to come all the way back. So I think it is an edge to Miami there. And again, San Diego gets into that distracted spot where when teams return home, they can fall into that return home distracted spot. Randy Vasquez is pitching for San Diego, and he's a guy that I don't really like. 1.43 whip is way too high, but a 3.49 ERA isn't that bad, and he's actually starting to pitch a little bit better recently, even though I know last outing his team lost 14-0, but he was okay in the game. He didn't make it 5 innings, though. I don't know if there was a rain delay or what, because he only threw 73 pitches, so they usually leave him in longer than that, and he wasn't really pitching that badly. So I don't really know why they took him out of that game. But going back to, just looking at May, he hasn't allowed more than 2 earned runs in any start. Although he hasn't really gone that deep, but he is pitching better than he was earlier this season. Finally, on the course of the season, he has 1 more strikeout than walk, finally, because at one point he had like 2 times as many walks as strikeouts, man. So his walk numbers is still a little bit of a concern, but he has only walked 3 guys over the last 3 appearances for him. So that's pretty good. Was it 3 or was it 2? 2, excuse me. 2 walks over the last 3 appearances. And up against Miami, he actually does have good numbers. I think Miami's offense is bad. Well, it's a small sample size of 4, but they're 0 for 4 with a strikeout off of Vasquez. They have no guys who have reached base off him, so I have to dial it back a little bit, even though it's a good spot to fade San Diego here. Randy Vasquez is definitely a pitcher who is fadeable, in my opinion, and I might even go as far as to say that I actually kind of prefer Ryan Weathers over him. Weathers, pitching from the Marlins here, having a decent season so far. He had 2 starts that were both against the Cubs, and that actually tells me something because the Cubs have one of the best offenses, if not the best in baseball. His first outing was good against them. 5 innings, 1 earned run, 2 hits, 5 strikeouts, 1 walk. Okay, cool, but then he has to face that really good offense again right away, and that offense just saw him. The offense tends to have the advantage the next time out, but what did he do? 5 innings, 1 earned run again, 4 strikeouts that time, no walks, and 5 hits allowed. So he did almost the same thing, so pretty consistent. That shows me something, man. If he could do that facing one of the best offenses in baseball that just saw him and pretty much shut them down again, Weathers might actually be decent now. He might actually have something here. And he's pitching in a pitcher-friendly park here. Up against San Diego, their offense is definitely pretty good. He has been bad against them in the past in a small 16 at-bat sample size, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. Not great. No extra base hits allowed, though. 312 average, 734 OPS. So I don't know what I want to do with this game, to be honest. The money is coming in on San Diego, though, up from minus 133 to minus 147. 84% of tickets, 98% of the cash coming into them. I don't totally agree with it, to be honest. I probably still prefer Weathers over Vasquez, and the spot for San Diego is just significantly worse, as I already just explained. So that would probably be, I would still probably lean to grabbing Miami as a decent underdog price there, but the money is coming in San Diego, though San Diego is public. So at least if you like Miami, you are fading the public there. And it looks like the cash, surprisingly, is coming in on the under in each of those two games that I just talked about as well. So interesting there. Oh, by the way, I totally forgot to mention with St. Louis here, Eric Fetty, I forgot to talk about his splits. His home road splits are actually part of that handicap as well. He has a 5.2 ERA and 266 opponent batting average at home this year. And on the road, 2.43 ERA and 190 opponent batting average. So Fetty has actually been way better on the road. So that's where he is today. So that is part of the handicap as well. Even though he is worse during the day, that worries me a little bit. But that is that's the way that it is there. And then we got the Yankees and Anaheim. Not a great game to talk about here. And two pitchers that are kind of questionable. I would say the Yankees are coming in from Colorado. Anaheim, I believe, is actually just staying at home. Yeah, after losing to the Marlins yesterday, I took the Marlins. And by the way, I forgot to mention part of the handicap yesterday that I think I forgot to mention was that Anaheim might have been looking ahead to this series against the Yankees too, because it's a big series. So that was also part of the fade of Anaheim yesterday. I forgot to point that out. I apologize. Yankees have Ryan Yarbrough pitching. He's got decent numbers here, 1.16 whip, 3.38 ERA. I mean, I would say good numbers, but he's only made a couple of starts, and yes, he pitched pretty well in that horrific Sacramento stadium against the A's, which pretty impressive. And then he struck out 8 guys against Texas, although I don't really know that he's that much of a strikeout pitcher, really. His walk number is still pretty high this season with 10 walks and 29 and a third. So I really have no idea what we're going to get out of Yarbrough, man. I don't know what to expect out of him at all, to be honest. He's been around for a while, kind of a journeyman pitcher. His career ERA is higher than his whip would suggest it should be. 4.18 ERA and 1.18 whip. So he's been okay. He's been kind of all over the map, really, but mostly he hasn't been a starter. He's been a reliever more than he has been a starter, I think, or he hasn't been a starter for a while, so it's hard to gauge what we're going to get out of Yarbrough here. I mean, he's been a decent pitcher throughout his career, though, and against Anaheim, his numbers are pretty decent in 48 at-bats, 229 average, 614 OPS, so he does have decent numbers against this Anaheim offense that can go cold quite a bit. And then Jack Kohanowitz pitching for the Angels. He has not been getting the job done this year. 5.03 ERA, 1.58 whip. That's not going to do it. He has a 16 to 15 strikeout walk ratio this month. That's not going to do it either. Last 3 starts, he has, 13 walks over the course of whatever that is, like 17 innings or something. I mean, that is really, really bad. 35 to 27 strikeout walk ratio on the season. His walk number is awful, and he's actually allowed more than 1 hit per inning and 9 home runs as well. So he has not been pitching well at all. So you can't trust Kohanowitz right now. I'm sorry. I mean, I know he's not a strikeout pitcher. His thing is usually, I'm going to come out, I'm going to be an intimidating presence on the mound, throw some breaking pitches and get guys to hit into outs and stuff, but it has not been working for him. The Yankees have never seen him before, so maybe he has a little bit of an edge there because of that, but I don't think you could trust Kohanowitz at all. The money is coming in on the Yankees up from -150 to -160, 91% of tickets, 97% of the cash. I couldn't really disagree with that, just based on those starting pitchers and what their current form looks like, so staying away, though, but again, and no WNBA today, by the way. They get Memorial Day off because, I don't know, because the WNBA is that patriotic, I guess. I don't know. But that's going to do it for me, man. The plays I gave out on the show today are the St. Louis Cardinals money line, not the run line, although you get a decent price on that. Money line. Toronto, Texas under the total, even though it's a low total. I think that's going to be a low-scoring pitching duel there. And then Minnesota Twins plus the money line price. That's going to do it. Tower Game Toad on Twitter. Patreon.com/Tower Game to support the Tower Game podcast. Get tickets to Bohemian Grove and come see us live in late June. And support my fundraiser, man. GiveSendGo.com/Tower Game Toad is still out there. I don't know how much longer I'm going to leave it up, but hopefully the money that I'm making will help me a little bit bridge the gap here. We'll see what I move on to next in life. Maybe it'll be professional betting at some point. Who knows? But I feel good right now because I was hot yesterday. Got a little bit lucky yesterday too. But my WNBA is super hot right now, even though their players are not. Thanks for hanging out, guys. Have a good one. Happy Memorial Day again. I'm gonna go to a cookout at my parents' house. So hopefully everybody's doing something fun here. Enjoy the day, everybody. Have some burgers and dogs and celebrate. Peace out.